What's going on, Summoners? My name is Kangas, and in this video, I'm going to run you through our high ELO tier list for patch 11.1. If you haven't already, first go check out our initial patch rundown for a full detailed explanation of every change. This video instead just covers the champion changes, and we're also going to rank champions based on their performance at the top of the ladder. Before we get started though, make sure to hit that sub button. We love bringing you guys the best content, and every single click helps. All right, let's run through it, beginning with the top lane.
Starting off, we got a few top lane changes to go over. First on our list of top laners is Cho'Gath. His E damage has been reduced from 22 to 80 to 22 to 70. It's a toss-up, and we'll keep Cho'Gath in the S tier for now. It's been a while since our last high ELO tier list, and we've reflected in our mid-patch update that Cho'Gath was popping off super hard in the middle of last patch, and it moved him up to the S tier in spite of him getting nerfed this patch. While he is weaker this patch, he's just as good with the new tank mythic items, and if you need a tank that deals plenty of damage, Cho'Gath is a great option, as he's able to stick onto his targets pretty well with either Frostfire Gauntlet or Turbo Chem Tank. Pantheon also received pretty big nerfs this patch. His Q now deals 70% damage to monsters, as well as the cooldown has been increased from 10 to 8 seconds to 13 to 8 seconds. Along with changes to items, Pantheon will feel significantly weaker this patch, and we've placed him in the S tier. With less sustain and a much longer cooldown on Q, we think Pantheon will fall off a bit and have moved him down to the S tier as a result. Personally, I'm happy Pantheon's getting hit in the top lane. He just feels oppressive, but that brings us to our question of the day. What champion are you sick of playing against? I'm a support main, so I don't have to go against Pantheon solo that often, but when I get autofilled top, I just hate seeing this guy. But let me know yours in the comments down below. Next up, let's talk about Singed. His Q's AP ratio has been increased from 80% to 90%. Although the buff is kinda small, we think Singed can actually be moved up to the A tier as a result. With Gore Drinker nerfed, a lot of top tier picks are going to be a lot weaker comparatively, giving more room to shine for picks like Singed. Riven also got buffed, and that is either very good or very bad news depending on whether or not you play her. Her E's cooldown has been reduced from 12 to 8 to 10 to 6 seconds. And while her core items are also weaker, there's a good chance that players will be able to find new builds for her in the near future. We've seen various builds like Crit Riven or just full lethality Riven make their way onto Summoner's Rift. And with all these new items, I wouldn't be surprised to see a new approach very soon. This cooldown reduction buff is massive, and we're confident she'll become an S tier pick as a result. Mordekaiser also got a buff. His E's cooldown has been lowered from 24 to 12 to 22 to 10 seconds. Not the same impact as Riven's buff, but it's still a good one. We'll leave him in the B tier for now, but think there might be a chance for him to move up to the A tier. A lot of champions were hit by item changes this patch, so we'll wait and see. Check out our mid-patch update next week, and we'll keep you all posted. And the final change we've made to the tier list is that we moved Darius back up to the OP tier. With Gore Drinker nerfed, it's only natural to assume that champions that don't use it are going to be stronger. Darius, while nerfed, was close to the border of the OP tier, and unfortunately, we're just going to have to bump him back up. It honestly wasn't that long since he's been here, and I'm not surprised given how difficult he can be to play against in 1v1s. So, our OP picks for the top lane are Camille and Darius, followed by Pantheon, Maokai, Ornn, Shen, Malphite, Aatrox, Renekton, Gnar, Cho'Gath, and Riven in the S tier. Next up, let's run through the jungle, where we actually have a ton of changes. Olaf has needed a nerf for a while, and he's finally gotten it. His base health has been lowered from 597 to 575, while his passive attack speed has been lowered from 0 to 100% to 0 to 75% based on missing health. Slap on the nerfs to some of his core items, and we've got an OP pick finally giving up his throne. Right now, there's just way too many nerfs hitting him simultaneously for Olaf to not take a major hit this patch. However, we do think he'll still remain a powerful pick, just not super OP anymore, so we moved him down to the S tier. While obviously he'll deal less damage and have less sustain than before, Olaf will still have a pretty good clear speed and will retain his high early to mid game damage output. With the changes to Turbo Chem Tank last patch, Rammus had a chance to really go the extra mile. He's been nerfed this patch as the taunt's cooldown has been increased from 12 to 10 just to 12 seconds flat. Because of that, we'll keep him in the A tier for now. While he's clearly an S pick for the majority of the player base, Rammus' success doesn't translate as well in elite levels of play. Up until around mid-diamond, Rammus is actually really strong, but as soon as you hit that elite barrier, players just know how to handle him better. Whether it's through counter picks, better mechanics, or simply map awareness, Rammus doesn't have that same presence in really high ELO. Elise was proving to be absurdly broken, even in high ELO. One more time, Elise is receiving some nerfs to bring her down to a more reasonable power level. Elise's human 4Q damage has been decreased from 40 to 180 to 40 to 160. Also, her W's attack speed has been reduced from 60 to 140% to 60 to 100%. While we keep her in the S tier, these are pretty big nerfs, and we'll keep an eye on her because she might drop to the A tier during the mid-patch tier list update. She's a champion who relies heavily on making impactful plays in the early and mid-game, and receiving 2 nerfs 2 patches in a row paints a pretty grim picture for the Spider Queen. Next up is everyone's favorite weirdo, Ivern. Ivern's health per level has been decreased by 10 this patch, and his Ease shield was also decreased from 80 to 220 to 80 to 200. While this is a noticeable nerf, we'll still keep him in the S tier for now. His statistics lead us to believe that there's plenty of room for him to retain his spot, and in Platinum and higher he ended last patch with a 54% win rate. And even with this nerf, he'll still continue doing exceptionally well. Those support items, man, they're just too darn cheap. Even in high elo, Udyr has been finding a ton of success. We've even seen him played in competitive games as well. We updated his placement in our last mid-patch update, and now we have to do it here as well. Of course, we have to tell you that Udyr did get nerfed this patch, as his Phoenix stance damage was decreased from 50 to 300 to 50 to 275. However, he'll still deal great amounts of damage, and what's made him stronger recently is access to new items and mobility. This nerf doesn't address everything that makes Udyr a powerful pick, and will comfortably place him in the S tier. Another nerf to talk about is Taliyah. In high elo, her win rate nearly exceeds 55% last patch, so yeah, she was pretty broken. This nerf is clearly targeted at elite levels of play, and it's a big one. Her Q now deals 80% damage to jungle monsters beyond the first stone. However, her passive movement speed has been buffed from 12 to 40% to 20 to 45%. This is going to take a major hit on Taliyah's clear speed, but we think she's still going to remain an S tier pick, because this is still much better than the past when she would only deal 50% after the first stone. Finally, Shyvana actually got a big buff. AP Shyvana, that is. Her Q now deals a 40% AP ratio, and her W now provides 8% movement speed for every 100 AP. With buffs this big, we have no choice but to move her up to the B tier. While she's been performing really poorly in high elo, the introduction of these ratios are a game changer for the character. We've got some final changes we've made, so let's run through them. First, Nidalee and Viego have been placed into the S tier. Nidalee has been gradually on the rise in high elo, and once again, she's become a very popular pick because of her aggressive playstyle that can be rather hard to punish. With tons of other OP junglers getting nerfed this patch, Nidalee will end up a bit stronger in the aftermath. Meanwhile, our analysts have had some time to assess Viego's strengths, and yeah, he's incredibly powerful. While of course you can point at his design and his insane passive that lets you control enemy champions, the reason is honestly a lot more simple. It's actually so easy to explain that I can express it in one word: damage. He does a lot of it, and you either have to risk fighting him head on and potentially allow him to pop off, or just concede to him. Pantheon has also been moved to the B tier this patch with all the nerfs that he received, as his clear speed has taken a big hit, and that'll definitely hurt his ability to function as a jungler. Finally, Hecarim has been moved into the OP tier. He was always on the border, and with the various changes this patch, we think he's ready to ride to the top. So our OP picks are Graves, Kha'Zix, Karthus, and Hecarim, followed up by Nunu, Evelynn, Kayn, Lilia, Kindred, Taliyah, Elise, Fiddlesticks, Ivern, Rek'Sai, Viego, Olaf, Udyr, and Nidalee in the S tier. Now let's run through the mid lane. I know a lot of us have been frustrated with playing against Anivia, but the good news is that she finally got nerfed this patch. Her Q damage was lowered from 70 to 210 plus 50% AP to 60 to 200 plus 45% AP. While this is a decent nerf, we think Anivia will still be able to hold on to her placement as an OP pick this patch. Our analysts did admit though that this is the most shaky placement for our OP pick list, which actually has had a major makeover this patch, including 2 new faces. But before we get into that, let's talk about Seraphine. She was also nerfed this patch. We made notes of her increasing strength in our mid-patch update for 11.2, and believe she'll continue to be an oppressive force on Summoner's Rift. Her passive's note damage has been decreased from 5 to 20 to 4 to 16. Also, her W shield has been reduced from 60 to 120 to 50 to 100, and self shield from 90 to 180 to 75 to 150. Seraphine, especially in elite levels of play, has been far too powerful. The vast, seemingly endless utility proved to be too powerful and will continue to be a thorn on many player sides headed into this patch as well. Next is Silas, who was buffed this patch. His Q's mana cost has been decreased from 50 to 75 to a flat 55, and his W's damage up from 65 to 205 plus 85% AP to 70 to 210 plus 90% AP. We don't think this is a big enough buff to change his placement, so we're leaving him B for now. Another buff this patch is for Vladimir. His ultimate's cooldown has been lowered from 150 to 120 to just a flat 120. So yes, this is actually a big one. He'll now be able to take advantageous fights much more often in the early and mid game. Winning any early fight can put Vlad ahead, and anytime you see him do that, he usually ends up becoming an unkillable raid boss who can also one-shot your whole team. We'll leave him in the A tier for now though, because there are just so many incredible mid laners right now, and I don't think Vladimir can actually compete on the same level as them. Now for the final changes to the mid lane. Echo and Pantheon have both been moved to the S tier, where they're also joined by Yasuo. Yasuo's items were buffed this patch, and now he'll finally have the tools to succeed in elite levels of play as well. Echo and Pantheon are still strong, but we had to move them down for two new faces, those ones being Viego and Yone. Yone has already been one of the most contested picks in high elo for several patches now. The buffs to his items, like with Yasuo, are definitely going to be enough for him to move to the next level. Viego, meanwhile, has proven to not only be a strong jungler, but a merciless mid lane opponent as well. His high damage output makes him very difficult to play against, especially if you prefer to play squishy scaling mages. And the final change that we've made is that Zoe and Victor have been shifted down to the A tier. The loss of redemption drops have been brutal for Zoe, and in Victor's case, Lichbane and Zhonya's Hourglass received some small nerfs, which we believe are enough to gently push him down a tier. Many of the best champions this patch can be pretty difficult to play on not only a mechanical level, but also a macro level. You can get punished so hard for even making a single mistake while playing somebody like Yasuo. So make sure to hit up a coach on ProGuides.com, because they can help point out any mistake you're making and level up your gameplay. You want to abuse Yone, right? So go check it out. Moving forward, our OP picks for the mid lane are Anivia, Viego, and Yone. In the S tier, we have Fizz, Zed, Annie, Katarina, Galio, Malphite, Talon, Seraphine, Kassadin, Yasuo, Pantheon, Echo, and Seraphine. Next, let's talk about the bottom lane. The most exciting change for bot laners this patch is to Jinx. Her base health has been reduced from 610 to 550, but that's just the beginning. Her Q's rocket range has been increased by 25 at all ranks, and the rocket form penalty has been lowered from 25% attack speed to 10% attack speed. Finally, her E's mana cost has been increased from 70 to 90, but the arm time has been lowered from 0.7 seconds to 0.5 seconds. Although squishier, these buffs are definitely worth it, especially for high elo players. Range advantages are something skilled players can easily abuse, and lowered penalty will make kiting much easier. And the reduced arm time is going to make following up on crowd control that much easier than before. Most high elo players were already able to use flame chompers effectively, but the room for error will be even lower this patch. We've moved her up to the A tier with these changes. Another buff for AD carries is Ezreal. His Q's AD ratio has been increased from 120% to 130%. Ezreal's felt weaker since Manamune was nerfed, but this buff should help restore some of that lost strength, so we'll keep him in the S tier for now. And the final changes we made are that we've moved Draven and Ashe down to the A tier and placed Seraphine up into the S tier. Seraphine bottom lane has emerged as a very popular pick, often pairing up with another utility sport or even a carry like Senna or Pyke. Nerfed a bit this patch, we'll place her in the S tier for now, but know that our analysts think she's somewhere on the border of OP and S tier, but just went with the latter. Swain has also been added to the A tier. His pick rate in high elo is much higher than it is elsewhere, and honestly, his win rates are actually absurd. He ended last patch with a 55% win rate in high elo, but before we place him higher, we want to give players some more time to react. His play rate is still super low, and a lot of his wins might just be because he's off meta for a while, and many players are still relearning how to play against him. So our OP picks for the bottom lane are Jhin, Kai'Sa, and Miss Fortune, followed by Ezreal, Vayne, Samira, and Seraphine. Finally, let's finish up with supports. First up for support changes is Karma. Her mana regeneration has been increased from 11.5 to 13, and her Q's mana cost down from 65 to 55. These changes give her so much more freedom to actually play the game. If you missed a Q before, you really felt it. Now, essentially, you'll be able to throw at least a few more of them before basing, and that damage can really add up in lane. When you're playing well and landing them consistently, you'll be able to apply a lot more pressure than before, since you'll actually have a lot more mana left in the tank. So we moved her up to the B tier. Finally, Rel got some adjustments this patch as well. Her E's cooldown when unbinding herself has been lowered from 3 to 1 seconds. She also receives an extra 20% AP ratio with her W when she's crashing down, making it 60% instead of 40. Her mount up and powered auto attack also got buffed, now scaling with 40% of Rel's AP. Finally, her ultimate AP ratio was buffed from 70% to 110%. With these changes, we might actually see AP Rel become a new trend in the near future. Rel has been seeing a lot of success lately, and with nerfs to Staff of Flowing Water, we think that she's on the border of being OP and will be able to make that final push this patch. Not necessarily because of the AP ratios, because with or without them, we still think she's strong enough to at least be a candidate for OP. And the final change is that we've moved Maokai into the S tier. He remains a powerful pick in Platinum to low Diamond, but falls off in elite levels of play. While the days of walking into a brush and possibly dying instantly aren't completely gone, the novelty of Maokai as a cheese pick is slowly falling off. Rip my win rate. More importantly, however, the meta is settling on enchanters who can utilize Moonstone Renewer. Maokai's poke damage is easier to shrug off with the presence of more sustain, and as an initiator, Maokai is just a little above average and not very exceptional when compared to things like Leona and Rel. Since you're usually opting for a full AP build also, you won't have Aftershock or defensive items like other frontline supports. So our OP picks for this patch are Leona, Thresh, and Rel, followed up by Lulu, Bard, Morgana, Nami, Janna, Alistar, Nautilus, Seraphine, and Maokai in the S tier.
Well, with that said, we'll wrap up our high elo tier list for patch 11.3. Thanks so much for watching. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like on the video, sub to the channel, and also check out the link in the description down below to join our growing community Discord. We got tons of people that love talking League of Legends, so go make some friends. With all that said though, best of luck on the Rift, stay hydrated, and I'll see you in the next one.